She had a can of Coke poured on her mid-interview by a girl dressed in designer, smiling sweetly like it was just an accident. The room giggled. A few phones were lifted subtly while she simply wiped her hands, folded her drenched notebook, and said nothing. Everyone thought she was a job applicant, a lost cause, a nobody among premium candidates, until they found out she was the CEO of the company they were trying to join. Elena Bloom stepped onto the 47th floor of Veritas Prime's Manhattan headquarters, the elevator doors sliding shut behind her with a soft hum. The air was crisp, scented with polished wood and the faint tang of espresso from an executive lounge nearby. The glass-walled conference room gleamed ahead, its sleek design a testament to Veritas's multi-billion-dollar status in the media world. The company was discreetly searching for a new chief creative officer, and this room, reserved for the world's most qualified, was the stage for today's high-stakes interviews. Elena, 32, didn't look like she belonged. Her white blouse was wrinkled, its collar slightly askew from a morning of travel. Her pale gray cotton skirt was plain, unadorned by any designer label. Her flats, scuffed and creased, clicked faintly on the marble floor. Her dark hair fell loose, slightly messy, untied around her shoulders. She carried a worn notebook, its corners water-stained, its pages crinkled from years of use. No watch, no jewelry, no makeup, just a bright face and quiet eyes that held a depth no one bothered to notice. To the bustling assistants and suited candidates, she was invisible, a shadow mistaken for a temp or a low-level staffer. Her presence didn't register in the flurry of ambition that filled the floor. She moved with a calm purpose, her steps deliberate, her notebook clutched lightly in one hand, as if it held the weight of the world. The conference room was a study in modern opulence. A long oak table dominated the space, surrounded by ergonomic chairs that cost more than most people's rent. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan's skyline. The Empire State Building, a distant sentinel. A digital screen, massive and sleek, hung on one wall. Its surface dark but ready to display the candidates' polished portfolios. The room buzzed with the energy of those already seated 8 candidates, their resumes gleaming with Ivy League degrees, global campaigns, and C-suite connections. Clara Kingsley sat closest to the head of the table, her silk blouse and tailored blazer radiating wealth. The daughter of a high-profile agency executive, her name was a fixture on every shortlist. Her million-follower Instagram account, a testament to her influence. Across from her was Blake Caldwell, a freelance branding consultant whose LinkedIn profile was a monument to his ego. His Versace blazer caught the light, his cufflinks glinting as he adjusted his tie with practiced ease. The other candidates, consultants, creatives, and corporate climbers whispered among themselves, their voices low but confident, their portfolios spread out like battle plans. Elena took the last chair, her flat silent on the carpet, her notebook resting on her lap. No one acknowledged her. If they glanced her way, it was with a fleeting pity, assuming she was an intern or a clerical error who'd wandered into the wrong room. Clara turned, her eyes sweeping over Elena from head to toe, her lips curling into a condescending smile. "Are you here to interview or refill the paper towels?" she asked, her voice sweet but sharp, like a blade dipped in honey. The room stirred, a few candidates stifling laughs behind their hands. Blake leaned back, his chuckle low and deliberate, his eyes glinting with amusement. "I think she got called here by mistake," he said, loud enough for the room to hear. "Or maybe she's hoping for my autograph." His grin was sharp, the kind that thrived on an audience. A woman in a pencil skirt, her hair pulled into a severe bun, glanced at Elena's notebook and smirked. "Is that handwritten notes? Who even does that anymore?" Her tone was mock curiosity, laced with disdain. A man in a pinstripe suit, his watch gleaming, muttered to his neighbor, "She looks like she's here to take lunch orders." The laughter was soft, subtle, but it cut deep. A collective dismissal of the woman they assumed was beneath them. Elena opened her notebook, its pages crinkling faintly, and began jotting something down, her pen moving with calm precision. Her face betrayed nothing, no flush of embarrassment, no flicker of anger. She was a still point in the room's storm of egos, her silence unnoticed by those too busy preening. Blake waved to a staffer, a young man in a Veritas-branded polo who was arranging water pitchers on a side table. "Get her a Coke." "Would you?" Blake said, his smirk widening. Might help her nerves. The staffer hesitated, his eyes flicking to Elena, then back to Blake. He nodded and placed a cold can of Coke beside her, the aluminum glinting under the fluorescent lights. Elena reached for it, her fingers brushing the can's edge. Clara, seated next to her, shifted suddenly, her elbow accidentally knocking the can over. It hit the table with a sharp clank, bursting open and splattering dark liquid across Elena's blouse, soaking the fabric and dripping onto her skirt. The notebook caught the worst of it, the ink on its pages smearing as the soda pooled. Clara covered her mouth, her eyes wide with mock horror. "Oh no. I'm so sorry," she said, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "But let's be honest, nothing important in that notebook anyway." "Right." The room erupted in laughter, louder now. Phones lifted at subtle angles to capture the moment. The staffer froze, a towel in his hand, unsure whether to intervene. Elena said nothing. She closed the dripping notebook, wiped her hands on her skirt, and sat back, her face calm, her eyes steady, as if the humiliation were a passing breeze. The laughter lingered, a smug undercurrent that filled the room like smoke. Clara leaned toward Blake, whispering loud enough for others to hear. "She's probably here to take notes for the real candidates." Blake nodded, his cufflinks catching the light. "Or maybe she's the diversity hire. Checking boxes." The woman in the pencil skirt snorted, adjusting her glasses. "She looks like she got lost on her way to a community college seminar." The man in the pinstripe suit added, "I bet she's got a PowerPoint on how to look out a place ready to go." The candidates fed off each other, their barbs sharpening, each one a test of who could land the cruelest jab. A woman with a pearl necklace, her portfolio embossed with gold, murmured, "Someone should tell her this isn't the mail rooms." The room's disdain was a living thing, wrapping around Elena like a net. But she didn't flinch. Her blouse clung to her skin, the soda's stickiness seeping through. But she sat with her hands folded, her posture straight, her gaze fixed on the blank screen at the front of the room. The candidates, oblivious, continued their chatter, their resumes spread out like trophies, their confidence a wall no one thought to question. The door swung open. Slicing through the room's hum, Rebecca Lynn, global head of human resources at Veritas Prime, stepped inside, her sharp black suit a stark contrast to the room's polished chaos. Her presence was electric, her movements precise, her authority absolute. The candidates straightened, their smiles tightening, their phones disappearing into pockets and briefcases. Rebecca's eyes swept the room, taking in the gleaming resumes, the designer clothes, the nervous energy crackling like static. Then they landed on Elena, and her expression softened. Just for a moment, a flicker of recognition no one else caught. "Good afternoon," she said, her voice calm but commanding, cutting through the room's tension like a knife. "I'm Rebecca Lynn, Global Head of Human Resources here at Veritas Prime. Before we begin today's interviews, I have a quick question." She turned to Elena, her gaze steady, unwavering. "Elena, are you okay? Did someone spill something on you?" The room froze. Clara's smile faltered, her fingers tightening on her pen. Blake's cufflinks stopped glinting as he stiffened, his breath catching. Elena nodded gently, her voice soft but steady, carrying a quiet strength. "I'm fine," she said. "It's nothing." Rebecca gave a slow, deliberate nod, her eyes never leaving Elena's. Then she turned to the room, her expression hardening, her voice like tempered steel. "Thank you all for showing your true colors so candidly," she said, each word a measured strike. "But I'm afraid none of you are being interviewed today. The person who will be interviewing you is Elena Bloom, our new Chief Executive Officer." The words hit like a thunderclap. Blake's face drained of color, his mouth opening and closing without sound, his Versace blazer suddenly too heavy. Clara shot up from her seat, her silk blouse rustling, her voice trembling with disbelief. "This has to be some kind of mistake," she stammered. "She can't possibly be—" Rebecca didn't flinch. She tapped her iPad, and a photo appeared on the main screen. Elena Bloom, smiling at a closed-door appointment ceremony held a week prior, surrounded by Veritas Prime's executive board. Her hand shaking the chairman's, the candidates stared. Their resumes forgotten, their confidence crumbling like sand. Clara's hands shook, her earlier poise shattered. The woman in the pencil skirt gasped, her glasses slipping down her nose. The man in the pinstripe suit gripped his watch, his knuckles white. Rebecca's voice was steady, each word a nail in the coffin of their arrogance. "Elena is not a guest," she said, her tone unyielding. "She's the architect behind Veritas's internal media systems. 8 years ago, she built the very platform that runs our communications worldwide. A system that saved this company billions and connected millions. She's been working as a silent strategic advisor, shaping our vision from the shadows. This week, she officially became our CEO. Today, she wanted to observe our culture of hiring firsthand before reshaping the creative division." The room collapsed into dead silence. Clara sank back into her chair, her face pale, her hands clutching the table's edge. Blake stared at the screen, his cufflinks dull, his ego a pile of ash. The woman in the pencil skirt removed her glasses, her resume crumpling in her lap. The staffer who'd brought the Coke stood frozen, a towel dangling from his hand, his eyes wide with regret. Elena sat calmly, her wet blouse clinging to her notebook closed, her eyes quiet but piercing, a lighthouse in the storm of their humiliation. The room's laughter was gone, replaced by a suffocating stillness, the weight of their misjudgment pressing down like gravity. Elena stood, her movements unhurried, her flats silent on the carpet. She stepped toward the table, her presence filling the room despite her small frame, her wet blouse dripping faintly. She opened her water-damaged notebook, the pages crinkling, and pointed to a line of names written in her neat, steady hand. "This is a list of people I will never allow into my team," she said, her voice low but clear, each word deliberate, cutting through the silence like a blade. Not because of lack of talent, but because of lack of character. She looked directly at Clara, whose face had gone from confident glow to crumbling horror, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I didn't come here to ask for a job," Elena said, her gaze unwavering, her voice steady as stone. "I came here to find someone worthy of working beside me, and you just disqualified yourself." Clara's breath hitched, her hands trembling, her silk blouse creased. Blake stared at the floor, his jaw tight, his earlier smirk a distant memory. The other candidates shifted uncomfortably, their resumes now meaningless, their phones silent, their dreams of Veritas Prime slipping away. Elena closed her notebook, the sound sharp in the quiet room, and turned toward the door. She walked out, her wet blouse dripping faintly, her skirt swaying with each step, her notebook clutched lightly in one hand. She didn't look back. The candidates remained frozen, their eyes fixed on the empty doorway. Their world upended in a matter of minutes. Rebecca watched them, her expression unreadable, then tapped her iPad again. "This meeting is over," she said, her voice final. "You'll receive further instructions, if any, via email." She followed Elena out, her heels clicking on the marble floor, leaving the room in stunned silence. Clara sank deeper into her chair, her hands covering her face, her earlier confidence shattered. Blake stuffed his resume into his briefcase, his cufflinks catching on the leather, his movements jerky. The woman in the pencil skirt stood, her glasses in her hand, whispering. We didn't even see her. The staffer quietly mopped up the spilled Coke, his towel soaked, his head down, his earlier hesitation now a weight he couldn't shake. The screen still displayed Elena's photo, her smile a quiet rebuke to the room's arrogance, a reminder of the power they'd failed to recognize. Outside, Elena stepped into the elevator, the glass walls revealing the city's skyline as it descended. Her blouse was still damp, the soda's stickiness clinging to her skin. But she didn't care. She'd come to the interview not to prove herself. She'd done that years ago, in late-night coding sessions, in boardrooms where her ideas had reshaped an industry, but to test the company she now led. Veritas Prime was hers, its future in her hands. And she needed to know who would stand beside her and who would fall. The elevator's hum was the only sound, a soft counterpoint to the chaos she'd left behind. Her notebook rested in her hand, its pages warped but intact, a record of her observations, her decisions, her power. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She didn't need to. The truth had spoken for her. And it was enough. The city sprawled below, its lights flickering like stars, and Elena stood alone, her eyes quiet, her mind already turning to the work ahead. Back in the conference room, the candidates began to gather their things, their movements slow, their voices muted. Clara's silk blouse was creased, her earlier poise gone, her hands trembling as she packed her portfolio. "My father will hear about this," she muttered. But her voice lacked conviction, a hollow echo of her former self. Blake stuffed his resume into his briefcase, his cufflinks scratching the leather, his face pale. "She can't be serious," he said. But no one responded, their silence a condemnation of his arrogance. The woman in the pencil skirt stood, her glasses in her hand, her resume crumpled, her eyes distant. "We didn't even see her," she whispered. The words a confession. The man in the pinstripe suit loosened his tie, his watch no longer a symbol of success but a reminder of his failure. The woman with the pearl necklace sat frozen, her portfolio untouched, her earlier sneer replaced by a blank stare. The staffer finished cleaning the table, his towel dripping, his eyes avoiding the candidates, his role in the moment a regret he'd carry for weeks. The screen went dark, Elena's photo disappearing, but her presence lingered, a weight the room couldn't shake. The candidates filed out, their footsteps heavy, their dreams of Veritas Prime fading with each step. The story of that day spread through Veritas Prime like wildfire, not through social media or press releases, but through whispers in cubicles, emails between executives, conversations in the company's sleek cafeteria. It wasn't about the Coke or the laughter, it was about Elena Bloom, the woman who'd built the company's backbone and now held its reins. The candidates' names faded, their resumes discarded, their arrogance a cautionary tale for those who remained. Clara's influencer account grew quieter, her posts less frequent, her confidence eroded by the memory of that room. Blake's LinkedIn updates stopped, his branding empire crumbling under the weight of his humiliation. His once loud voice silenced. The woman in the pencil skirt took a job elsewhere, her resume rewritten, her confidence shaken by the lesson she'd learned. The man in the pinstripe suit returned to his firm, his watch a reminder of the day he'd misjudged a titan. The woman with the pearl necklace canceled her next interview, her portfolio gathering dust, her ambition tempered by the truth. Veritas Prime moved forward, its culture shifting under Elena's silent leadership. A reminder that power didn't need a spotlight. It thrived in the quiet, in the steady hand that wrote the future. Elena sat in her office on the 50th floor, her notebook open on her desk, its pages dry now but still stained. She sipped black coffee, the city sprawling below, its chaos a contrast to her calm. She didn't think about the conference room, didn't dwell on the Coke or the laughter. She thought about Veritas, about the platform she'd built from nothing, the vision she'd shape with her team, those who'd earned their place beside her. The company was hers, not because of a title, but because of her work, her mind, her will. She closed the notebook, the sound soft but final, and turned to her computer. There was work to do, and she was ready. The world might whisper her name, might marvel at her story, but Elena didn't need their words. She'd walked into that room knowing who she was, and she'd left it unchanged, except for those who dared to underestimate her. Her office was quiet, the hum of the city a distant pulse, but her presence filled the space, a quiet force that needed no announcement. The 47th floor conference room stood empty the next day, its oak table polished, its chairs neatly aligned. The digital screen was dark, the skyline outside indifferent to the drama it had witnessed. Veritas Prime's employees spoke of Elena in hushed tones, her story a legend in the making. She didn't say much. One assistant whispered in the cafeteria, but she didn't need to. They say she's been running things for years. Behind the scenes. A junior executive nodded, his coffee untouched. She built the system we all use, and we didn't even know her name. The staffer who'd brought the Coke kept his head down, his shifts quieter now. His role in the moment, a lesson he'd never forget. The company's culture began to shift, meetings growing more respectful, assumptions questioned, egos checked. Elena's leadership was a quiet revolution, her vision reshaping Veritas from the inside out. One decision at a time. The candidate's humiliation wasn't public, but it was felt. A ripple that changed the company's soul. Elena's power was in her silence, her strength in her certainty, her legacy in the truth she'd revealed without a single raised voice. If that Coke scene made your jaw drop, hit like, share this with someone who knows their worth in a room full of noise. Drop a comment. Have you ever been mistaken for the intern? Subscribe for more stories where silence speaks loudest. And remember, real power doesn't announce itself. It walks in quietly, and owns the room.